Welcome back to a special edition of Clearcut. I'm Michelle McCory. Thanks for watching. Standing beside the Israeli Prime Minister in Jerusalem, President Trump talked about his meeting with leaders of the Arab and Muslim world over the weekend.
I'm encouraged that they pledge cooperation to confront terrorism and the hateful ideology that drives it so hard. America welcomes the action and support of any nation willing to do the hard but vital work in eradicating the violent ideologies that have caused so much needless bloodshed and killing here and all over the world.
Let's bring in Dr. Judy Jasser. He's the founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Dr. Jasser, thanks for being with us. What is your reaction to those comments by President Trump?
Well, I think it's been a refreshing reset of the relationship. I think there is nothing that I wanted to hear more than to hear those words of not only identifying the ideology, but saying that he was going to isolate Iran, that he called upon the Sunni governments to work with the West, rekindle that alliance that we had in the 20th century that President Obama lost. And to hear him do it from a position of leadership, to call them, by using the term Islamist and talking about ideology, he's basically putting them on notice that these radicals don't come out of thin air. And we gained some credibility by giving them the $100+ billion arms deal, which you can argue whether it was a good idea or not. But bottom line is the short-term goal is to defeat ISIS, to defeat the militants. And one of the reasons ISIS flourished and Jabhat al-Nusra flourished was that we did not chaperone any type of activity with the revolution in Syria. We allowed Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey to radicalize that revolution, if you will. And I think now we've seen a reset of that. And now we're headed towards, at least in the short term, more stability in the region.
Dr. Jasser, the president is asking to eradicate violent ideologies. There seems to be acceptance from this from the Arab leaders, but how can there be a call to confront terrorism and at the same time you have the Palestinians inciting violence and rewarding terrorism? Why does there seem to be a distinction between these two?
That's a great question, and I'll tell you the reason I believe that distinction exists is two things. One is I hope this president, who's been branded as anti-establishment, branded as speaking truth to power, can begin to sort of abandon the old 20th century linkage concept, which is the Arabist influence in the State Department that somehow linked Israeli-Palestinian peace to regional stability, which is nonsense. Most of especially now post-2011, the Arab peoples realize that their biggest threats are their own governments, their own tyrannies, and that the root cause of radicalization is not the Israeli-Palestinian issue, which is a false propaganda, but rather their own tyrants. Secondly, I think that he needs, and this is something I don't think President Trump did, is to speak past the tyrants. And he did it a little bit in the speech in Riyadh, but he's certainly not doing it in the Palestinian areas where he's speaking with Abbas. And, I think he needs to speak to the Palestinian people, avoid the old 20th century tyrants that have radicalized the Palestinian people within their own populations, and tell them to find new leaders, adopt universal human rights, respect, and recognize Israel, and then come to the table.
So what would you like to hear him say, and how would he address these people through the context of his meeting with Mahmoud Abbas in Bethlehem tomorrow?
Well, already we're hearing from Abbas that he is talking about gestures and beginning to, in an Arab tribal way, make demands and dismissals, if you will, because of what he's hearing from the rekindling of the strong friendship with Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump. So I hope President Trump comes from a position of strength. I hope he tells them, listen, this train is moving. You can either get on or you are going to be left out of the process. And I hope he also begins to use alternative media, like he's spoken past the establishment, to speak past the Palestinian establishment and speak to the Palestinian people and say, listen, peace is in the interest of both peoples, the people of Israel and Palestinians, and that ultimately they need to hold their leadership accountable to abandon some of the hateful ideology that's in the Hamas charter and other aspects that have been ground into their generations for the last 50 years.
But Dr. Jasser, do you think that he has done anything to indicate, as you said, that this train is moving, that they need to get on? Has he done anything to show that he means more serious business than any other administration so far?
That's a great question, and yeah, I'm being optimistic, I guess. I'm a glass half full kind of person, but no, he hasn't done enough. I think that this is his first trip. I know that many of us want to see so much accomplished to make up for the 8 lost years we've had, but you're right. Trump has done little. That's better than nothing.
Right.
And the bureaucracy of the State Department, which is most of which still the Obama bureaucracy, has been pushing back to make sure it's as little as possible. So he has a lot of ground and infrastructure of old Arabist bureaucracy to deal with, and we probably should give him a little time to do that.
All right, certainly some progress made, though. Dr. Judy Jasser, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you. Anytime.
And coming up on the show, President Trump gets ready to meet with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. This is a special edition of Clearcut. Stay here.